Matt Carano, welcome to the Impart podcast.
Thanks. I'm super psyched to be here. Good to talk to you again, Liam.
Likewise, and you are a fellow artist, but you also are a part of Thrive Protocol. So tell us, what is Thrive Protocol?
Well, Thrive is the largest cross-chain builder funding protocol in all of crypto. We have $70 million committed right now, allocated to us by ecosystems that we partner with that are going to impactful projects and people in crypto. And our major reason for being really is that we think that crypto has a really hard time surfacing impactful projects, impactful people, and making sure that those are the folks that get the funding. And that a lot of crypto actually goes to spam and bots and maybe entities or individuals that know how to play certain games. But the problem with that is that it doesn't forward the mission of crypto long term. Like if a bunch of funding, if billions of dollars, I think probably are going to funding bots and spam and fraud and all the other stuff, then that funds could have been used for super productive projects that are actually moving crypto forward, and it's not. And so we think if we fix that, we'll get to the crypto future that we so desire much faster than we would get there otherwise. So that's Thrive in a nutshell. It's we surface amazing, impactful projects. People make sure that they get funded.
Cool. Before we talk about that, so you said just now that the money is going to bots and spam and fraud. How is that happening?
Well, I think it's just, first of all, crypto does a very good job at knowing that something is valid. Like we have a nice consensus mechanism and we have a public blockchain that, when we know a transaction or interaction happens in crypto, we know that it legitimately occurred. But crypto does not have a very good job of delegating which one of those interactions are actually valuable. There is no consensus mechanism for that. And so a lot of times, it lends itself to behaviors that create short-time profits, whether that's pumping tokens or it's like grant farming, or it's just using spam and bots to like manipulate algorithms, or to whatever, sort of like not real TVL or daily active users. And though that like short-term profit taking basically creates a scenario where like there's not a lot of long-term thinking, and the incentives are there where if they want to profit themselves, they have to take those actions. So I hesitate to say that it's malicious actions, because a lot of these actions are actually playing within the realm of the game, but they're not actions that think about long-term value or the long-term value proposition of crypto. And so we change that because every single interaction that goes through Thrive actually goes to our reviewer network. We call them guardians. They put eyeballs on them. They say, did this thing actually create value? If yes, funds get released. Did this thing create value? Thumbs down. No, funds do not get released. So that's how it works with Thrive.
Cool. So take us through that. Let's break it down. So we have various players within Thrive. Some of them are called guardians, as you just said, and you have a suite of kind of offerings for different kinds of people. So what are those offerings and how does one participate?
Yeah, great question. Thrive is for everyone. And, long term, really, as I mentioned to begin with, like Thrive is really about trying to find the impactful people and projects and making sure they get funded. So let's look at it from a project standpoint. So say you are a Web3 dev or builder and you have a project and you want to try to find funding, right? You're looking for funding from an ecosystem, a grant, et cetera, in order to, maybe you're a startup and you're trying to get it off the ground, or maybe, try to take the next step and get to the next level. How you would normally do that now is very difficult. You would have to figure out which ecosystem is giving grants. You'd have to go into that ecosystem, make friends, maybe do forum posts, maybe there's a snapshot vote, maybe it's who you know or whatever. It's super hard. And I think that's actually really stopped a lot of Web2 devs from coming into Web3, which is limiting us there. There's only 7,500 or something full-time devs in Web3. And like, why would you leave your super lucrative job in Web2 to come to Web3 if you're going to have a hard time getting funding? So the builder is one of those players in our ecosystem. And what would happen is we have this thing called the Thrive Certified Challenge, where if you're a builder, you have a project, you go to our app, start.thriveprotocol.com, take the builder path, fill out an application, and that application asks you to choose a category of impact that your project can show. And it's one of six categories. It's either daily active users, TVL, transaction volume, innovation. It sort of encompasses every type of project. And then literally link to proof that your project has been able to create impact with it. And then what ends up happening after that is when you submit it, it goes to our reviewer network. We call our reviewers, we call them guardians, which I'll talk about in a second, who looks at it and basically rates and ranks the projects based on the impact that can show. And if it's a startup, you submit your application for certification. You're a startup, maybe you have a nice white paper, or you've got a team in place. You got to go to market plan or whatever. You could still get Thrive certified, but you would be bronze level. If you're maybe you've launched on mainnet, you got a couple transactions or whatever, you might be silver level. And we have bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Platinum is obviously a project that's gotten a ton of traction, maybe been around for a while. And what that does is it pre-qualifies the project for funding from our partner ecosystems. I mentioned before we have $70 million worth of funding right now through partnerships with Polygon and ApeCoin and Hedera, et cetera, Metis and Boba, et cetera, and more are coming on all the time. Those ecosystems want to fund certain levels of projects and certain types of projects. And so we're through the certification process, we're able to match the right project with the right ecosystem fund and get them funding. So that's one of the actors in Thrive. The other is the Guardian that I mentioned, which those are reviewers. So every single interaction that happens through Thrive, and we do things like grant funding, as I mentioned, with milestones of value that these projects have to submit, to even community engagement stuff like the stuff that we're doing with Hedera. Go use this fun app, earn some HBAR for doing it. No matter what the contribution is or task is, et cetera, that happens in Thrive, it goes, once it gets submitted, it goes to our reviewer network, our guardians. And they're the ones who are saying, did this submission actually do what the contribution said that it was supposed to do? And as I mentioned before, if they thumbs up it, and it's a consensus too, so it usually goes to 3 different guardians, and at least 2 of them have to approve it for it to be to move forward. But say it's a milestone, a project submits, they look at it, they say, oh, yep, they submitted the milestone, they submitted proof, looks like they did exactly what they said they were going to do, thumbs up, and then the next tranche of funding gets released to the project. Or, as I mentioned, like the community engagement stuff, go do something on KiloScribe, and then prove it through our contributions. The Guardians take a look at it, say, yep, they did it, and then the HBAR gets released to them. So the Guardian is the other major actor in our ecosystem. And we are also on the lookout, not just for projects, we're also on the lookout for guardians as well. You can go to the same place on our website, start.thriveprotocol.com, take the guardian path, and there are 5 different types of guardians. You have to, again, you have to prove that you have a certain level of expertise, and then if you're approved as a guardian, then you can start doing reviews in our ecosystem, earning Thrive points, or if you're doing reviews for our partner ecosystems, earning the tokens of the ecosystems that you're doing guardianship for. And it's a cool job because you're literally you're protecting the treasury of the ecosystems that you're reviewing for. You're making sure that the treasury spend is only going to things that are creating value. So that's 2. I know it's a lot. Like, our ecosystem's big. I say it's for everybody, but there are ways that people who are creators or podcast hosts or space hosts or even people who just participate, who come to spaces and whatever, make Twitter threads, can also earn in the Thrive ecosystem.
Awesome. I was going to ask you because I was wondering, were you going to end at the Guardian? But of course, there's a third player, which is us, kind of like the community. So if I'm getting this right, your platform gets grants from the owners of Web3 networks themselves. So the owner of the Hedera network, maybe Manson Lehman, might say, okay, we want to allocate I can see on your website 6 million HBAR worth of
Mhm.
grants. We want some of that grant money to be allocated towards incentivizing building on the Hedera network. We want some of that money to be allocated towards testing existing projects on the network. And you mentioned just now that there are various layers with the projects, by the way, and I don't want to forget this, the bronze, silver, gold,
Yeah.
platinum, etc. What can one hope to earn as a project owner through a grant for bronze, silver, gold, platinum? And then furthermore, what can your average creative hope to earn? I had a quick look at the site just now and I saw that there were some bounties up for 5 HBAR on the Thrive Hedera. There were some bounties up for 1,000 HBAR. Who sets
Mhm.
those? Who are the players that actually set those? And then also, what can one hope to earn as a guardian? Is that also something quite lucrative? Because obviously, people are always looking to earn some bounties in the cryptocurrency market, but I don't think that many people in Hedera, at least, and that's our primary interest at Impart, I don't think many people are aware of Thrive Hedera and that they could actually be earning some HBAR just doing some simple tasks. I saw something as simple as go and use the Kabila app, and we actually interviewed Manu yesterday from
Mhm.
Kabila. Go use the Kabila app
Yeah.
and earn 5 HBAR when you buy your first NFT. But then there was another one that was like make a tutorial video, and that was like 1,000 HBAR. I mean, that's a lot of money to make a tutorial video. I thought to myself, wow, I might just go and do that myself. So, how
Right.
much can each of these players hope to earn, and what are the tiers? Yeah, give us some more information.
Yeah, sure. So we'll start on the builder side. So typically we see ranges depending on the impact level that you can show. So as you mentioned, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Usually startups, so someone that would be bronze to silver. Bronze is usually somewhere in the round of like a 25,000, funding max. Silver might be up to maybe 50,000. Gold might be up to 100,000. Platinum might be up to 250,000. And those are the typical ranges that we see with the ecosystems that we partner with. So a lot of times what happens, it's a collaboration between us and whatever board or foundation or entity that we're partnering with that are helping to determine that. So like a good example is with Metis. We did a startathon. Our first season with Metis was called our initiative was called the Startathon. Metis wanted a bunch of startup projects, so that's bronze and silver, to deploy onto Metis and to help grow with their ecosystem. And I think the funding amounts were somewhere around 25,000 or so. But they also followed up with an accelerate program as well. So moving from after you've deployed and you've gotten some traction, moving you to the next level to try and get you from say bronze and silver to gold. And I think the max funding amount for that was like 100,000. So it really just depends on the ecosystem, what they're trying to achieve. I also tell people too that like, because I get this question all the time. I'm doing a ton of spaces right now. I think, as you know, people ask me all
Mhm.
the time, well, what kinds of projects can get funded? And I say, it really, the sky's the limit, on chain and off chain. Like through Arbitrum, there were a lot of communities that got funded, like SheFi is onboarding women into Web3. That got funding. That's a course in a community and events and things. It's not on chain. To DeFi projects, to SocialFi, to meme coins. It's just whatever the ecosystem's looking to find that they think will help build their community is what we try to find for them. So really anybody, Thrive Certified is for any project in crypto. So I think that answers the funding tiers on the builder side, and then the same thing sort of occurs on the creator side or the on the reviewer side, the guardian side as well. A lot of those contributions are as a collaboration with the board. So typically, when we launch an initiative with an ecosystem, then a board is set up, which is members from, say, that foundation or top delegates or whatever, and members of Thrive, and we get together and figure out what the campaign is going to look like, the initiative is going to look like, and sort of set those things. Whether that's contributions for doing apps or doing content or whatever, or it's grants. That's all set kind of on that level based on the needs of that ecosystem. And then from a reviewer standpoint, there's different things that's different tiers too. It sort of depends on what types of things are being reviewed. If it's a grant, and it's like you're responsible for things that are, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, well, then that review pays more. So you could get anywhere from, I don't know, I think 15 to even $500 an hour to review for like tokens in our to review through our partner ecosystems. And everybody gets united by earning Thrive points as well. So we Thrive recently started marketing ourselves a lot more. In the past, we were really just marketing our partnerships and initiatives, but we're finding that we need to do a better job getting out there and trying to find the impactful projects and people. And we figured that the best way to do that is just to start like marketing ourselves a lot more, not just our initiatives. Because we're getting to a point where, as I mentioned, we have 70 million in funding right now, and we really expect that to keep increasing. And so the problem isn't going and finding funding. Like once our partner ecosystems understand what Thrive is all about and what we do, it's not the hardest like sell to partner with us. The hard part now is going out and making sure that we're finding the impactful people and projects. So we started really marketing ourselves, which is why I'm going on a ton of spaces and talking to people and doing podcasts and things. And we have a Thrive Points initiative that is helping us like push our message, points for referring projects, points for referring guardians, points for doing content for us, for hosting us, all that type of stuff. And then as well as if you become a certified project, become a certified guardian, points for that. If you get a grant in our ecosystem, points for that. So huge points initiative that's kind of cross all of the ecosystems. Where typically if you're doing stuff, say in Ape with our Thank Ape initiative, which is with ApeCoin, or with Hedera, you're earning HBAR, you're earning Ape coin, but you're also earning Thrive points for doing stuff across the ecosystem.
Cool. So what do those Thrive points do exactly? Couldn't help but notice that in your email,
It's a
I
great
think it's
question.
Matt at thrivecoin.com. And I went to thrivecoin.com and it just reverted me back to the Thrive protocol website. So I'm wondering, do you have any kind of secret plan to launch a Thrive coin to reward people, or what's going on there?
Well, who knows what the future will hold, Liam? I mean, Thrive points are just a great way for us to measure the impact that you've had or someone has had in the Thrive ecosystem. It's almost like reputational, which I think is important for everybody to know in the coming few months.
Okay, so so is this a reward system for the people who are engaging in the guardianship or the community project aspect, or is this something outside of that where they're the ones promoting Thrive specifically, and that's separate to the grants on the actual website available in cryptocurrency, right? This is something separate we're talking about, to be clear.
Yeah, you can earn Thrive points by doing all sorts of things across the ecosystem. So by becoming a guardian, by even just applying to become a guardian, 100 Thrive points, I think.
Wow.
By actually becoming a certified guardian, I think it might be 1,000 Thrive points. Same thing, applying to your project to get certified, X amount of Thrive points. Getting a grant and a partner and through our partner ecosystems or through our partnerships with other ecosystems is X amount of Thrive points. So it's a way to sort of connect the dots
Mm.
all around our ecosystem into one thing because we are, you think about it this way, like we're partnering with all these other ecosystems, and they're very diverse, very different. Like Hedera is very different than the ApeCoin community. They're all very different from each other, and so Thrive Points is a way to sort of connect the dots between all of them, and to just show kind of an overall, give everybody sort of an overall understanding of impact that our community has made across the ecosystem.
Mm. We love that word impact at Impart.
We do.
It's nice to be reminded that you don't need a cryptocurrency or a crypto asset to do things like what you're talking about. I think that we get carried away, especially in Web3. It's like, oh well, why isn't there a token attached to it? It's like, well, sometimes you actually don't
Yeah.
need a token to measure certain things. We should do well to remember that. So let's say I'm a project developer now. I submit an application on Thrive Protocol, and that is then reviewed by the Guardians. And how does that work? Because obviously I can make a whole bunch of promises, and this is how we initially met. We were speaking about, well, what actually constitutes value? And then it was really, we spoke about this concept of like following through on promises and that kind of aligning with some
Yeah.
kind of value proposition. So how is it measured then? And how are those funds allocated after a project submits? Do they just get those funds in the native cryptocurrency of the network they're applying for, and then do they get to spend it how they want? Or is there some kind of like overview of how they're supposed to spend it, or does the project make a promise of how they're going to spend it, or do they have to actually write out a business plan? How does that work exactly?
Great question. It's really different for every single level, really. Like if you are a bronze level project, you can't show, like you might not have deployed on chain or anything. You can't really show any impact. But if you show that you have a great business plan or a go-to-market plan and a great team, maybe you've got some code or depending on what type of project you are, you got some code spun up on GitHub or whatever. If you can just show from our reviewer standpoint or guardian standpoint, if you can show that it's likely that you will be able to create impact in an ecosystem, that's great. And that's how you sort of get through. Although I would caution and say, so I mean, I do reviews too. I'm a guardian too. I like doing reviews. I love using our reviewer app. It makes me feel good to do reviews because it feels like I'm actually like doing something that's protecting kind of the sanctity of crypto, making sure that only things that are valuable or impactful are going through. So I love doing it. Um, but I've seen, some really crappy applications where it's just they're using like a few words for what they're doing and no proof whatsoever. And it's like that's not going to get through. But you don't have to be on chain and deployed in order to get Thrive certified. So but what happens is this: you submit whatever proof you have. Our guardians look at it, and if it's bronze level, like I said, is this project likely to create impact for an ecosystem if they fund them? And as I mentioned before, Metis was a great example of that. They wanted bronze and silver levels, people who hadn't even deployed yet, and Metis was happy to see our certified projects because it basically pre-qualifies them. You know what I mean? They're like a lot of times when you do an RFP process for grants funding, you'll get a lot of spam applications, and this weeds it all out. It's gone. So what they end up looking at from a board level is like, okay, here are all the projects that have been pre-qualified that we've got some great choices here, especially if you're doing something like funding 50 projects like this the Startathon did. That's a lot of projects, and you definitely want to like weed out the ones that are just kind of not either spam or just not really serious. So it acts as a pre-qualification, and then how it works is like right now. Pre-qualification is probably the best way to say it. So if you get Thrive certified, it's like you are pre-qualified. We know which impact that you can show already. And so when funding opportunities happen through our partner ecosystem, we can say, hey, this is the perfect this is the perfect funding mechanism for you. And at the same time, to the boards, we can say, hey, this is a great project for you based on what your needs are, what type of impact you're trying to show in your community, what level they are, et cetera. So you get certified, and we start sending funding opportunities to the projects based on what we have going in our partner ecosystems. And that always changes because typically how it works is it's sort of seasonal, where there's a 3-month or a 4-month or a 6-month season to like the funding cycles. So depending where we are in that and which seasons are coming up or which ones are ending, you'll see different funding opportunities after you do it. We think in the future this actually acts as qualification, not pre-qualification. We think if we get the application dialed in right, and then with buy-in from the boards, it literally would just be like sort of a right of refusal level. But like basically, oh no, you're qualified. And then just as the board's looking at it, like, no, we want RWA, we don't want DeFi or whatever. That would be kind of the last maybe shutdown for getting funding. But we think that's where it's going to go in the future. So far, like the response from our partner communities is really psyched about certification because, like I said, it sort of weeds. It funnels all the great projects, all the impactful projects right in front of them right away for funding.
Okay, cool. So to be clear, and this is a really important distinguishing, this is not something
Sure.
where you apply and then because you get bronze, Thrive sends you $25,000. We're not talking about that. And that's actually something that kind of confused me in the beginning, to be honest, when we initially spoke about it. So what we're talking about is you apply, you get kind of like given this stamp of approval. Okay, you're bronze. What that means is if there is a bronze opportunity from the Web3 network, right, like from the higher ups, then you will put them in touch with that bronze player in the Thrive protocol and they will get that opportunity. And then I assume that they would probably only get the payment after they've done like a certain task. How are they held accountable to do the thing?
Yeah, great questions. So it's a lot cleaner than that because the funds are already allocated to Thrive. And so it is a collaboration between Thrive and the ecosystems that we partner with to ultimately decide which projects are going to get funded. But it fast tracks the entire process. We're not going out into like typically in the past, if you do some sort of funding round or grants round, you're advertising, you're trying to collect all these people. bring them in, and that process takes forever. Where if you get Thrive certified, it's fast tracked. It's like, nope, we already have our suite of gold level projects here. Which ones make the most sense for your ecosystem, depending on what your goals are? So it makes it a lot faster and a lot cleaner. And then and exactly right, but those funds are allocated by those ecosystems. It's not, I mean, it's Thrive in control of the funds. So so that the process is we have the funds and we are administering the entire process. But a final decision is a board between Thrive and the ecosystems. So that's how that works. And then in terms of like getting funding and how that works, all the different ecosystems are different. Like Zion, for example, our initiative with Zion called Thrive Zion is funding upfront and then looking for proof of milestones throughout the rest of the process. So like funding up front to start to do stuff, so that way, projects can get started, et cetera, and then other funding unlocks after that. And how that works is typically you submit a milestone of value so like say your first milestone is I have to launch on mainnet. That's your milestone one, and it locks X amount of funds. So you launch on mainnet, you submit through our grants app, hey, here's proof that I launched on mainnet. That goes to our guardians, our reviewer network. They say, yep, looks like it happened. Great, good job. And then funds get released for the next milestone.
Amazing. That sounds great. And I assume is that all on a smart contract out of interest? Like is that whole process of review happening on a blockchain or some kind of Web3 tech, or is it purely like a centralized consensus mechanism of the people involved?
It's people involved. So it is it's a protocol, but not on a blockchain yet.
Okay, cool. I know that we are quite short on time, so I think I'll leave you with this. What kind of impact, so to speak, do you think that Thrive protocol has had on the projects that it's worked with so far? And is that measurable? Like, if you had to look back on everyone you've worked with, what kind of growth do you think that Thrive has contributed to the Web3 ecosystem?
Oh, that's such a crazy question for me to answer. I know that we funded over 1,600 projects. So
Wow.
I don't know how to quantify it, but like I know it's tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars, but I don't know. That's a great question. I would love to know the economic impact of that funding. There must have been positive ROI by multiples, I would imagine. But damn, I wish I actually knew that. That's such a great question. I need to find out. But it's definitely, what I definitely know is that it's been a lot of projects and a lot of great ones. And yeah, I mean, I think we're just going to keep creating more and more impact. The funding keeps coming, and yeah, I mean, it's our mission. Like we want to make sure that we're creating the crypto future that we want, and this is the way that we think that we can best do it. So, great question. I need to figure that out.
Cool. And so if people want to start building or become a guardian or whatever, should they go to Thrive Protocol, or should they try and find the native Thrive of their network? So for example, Thrive Hedera or Thrive Zion that you said, where's the best place to actually start this process?
Yeah, great question. If you just follow us at Thrive Protocol on Twitter, you can see there's a link right there to kind of the main entrance point for our ecosystem, which is start.thriveprotocol.com. From start.thriveprotocol.com, there's 3 paths. You can take like a citizen path, which is people who are contributing in many ways, becoming advocates, creatives, etc. There's the guardian path, and then there's the builder path. So it should route you appropriately. But that's really the best way in. If you're a project, get Thrive certified, because once you do, it opens up our ability to send you funding opportunities depending on what level you're at and what impact metric that you can prove.
Fantastic. Well, I hope people take advantage of that. Matt, thanks so much for the time. Is there anything you want to leave our audience with?
No, follow at thriveprotocol.com, get your project Thrive certified, become a guardian, participate in Thrive.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.